Alrighty, let's get started. Appreciate everybody for being here. God bless you all. Make sure you please give it a thumbs up on your way in. We're gonna get started here momentarily. I was thinking about something. Sometimes after my live streams, I'll be like thinking in my head, I should have mentioned this. There's a great point I should have brought up about that. So there's a point I forgot to mention yesterday with regards to TikTok and other social media platforms trying to stop the movement, the Let's Go Brandon movement, labeling it hate speech and uh, harassment and bullying. It's like, do we forget that not even 3 years ago, you still had, and to this day, actually, you can still find videos of the mock assassination of Trump and people threatening to blow up the White House and all of that. I just forgot about that. And I think that's a really important point. Of course, we know how hypocritical these people are. But I mean, that's a great thing, though. Like, I mean, you shouldn't have videos of mock assassinations of people trying to insinuate violence against a sitting president or anybody for that matter. But that stuff just sits on social media, and that's just kind of where we are. And that brings me actually to that's a great segue into what we're going to talk about first, which is President Trump's launching his own social media platform. Um, so I think this is a good thing. And he in his statement, his release statement about this, he mentioned the fact that the Taliban exists on Twitter. How is it that he got removed from Twitter and taken off of all social media because of his role in inciting the insurrection on January 6th, but the Taliban doesn't get marked for removal and they behead people? They openly discriminate against gay people and women, but they are allowed to have this platform. So I think it's a great way to expose the hypocrisy. We know that their hypocrisy is real, and that they're trying to, they try to say like, oh, you conservatives aren't get censored on social media. Here's proof of it. You can see the Daily Wire and Dan Bongino. They are one of the top Facebook pages out there. But they forget the fact that those are big, and that's a fair thing. Like, why is the Daily Wire never getting censored? That just never happens to them. It's interesting. But you have other people who've been censored, Diamond and Silk and other myself. I got removed from Facebook and Instagram. So it's not like it's not real, but they pretend like it's not real at all. It's just not happening at all. You guys are just conspiracy theorists as usual. Nonetheless, Trump's got this new social media platform, and we'll see how it goes. But the haters had to come right on out right away. CNN, 3 reasons why Donald Trump's new social media company is doomed to fail. Donald Trump is finally getting into social media game, which is long overdue. We've all wondered when this was going to happen. So Truth Social is the name of this social media platform. And they give 3 reasons why they think it's going to fail. Number one, Twitter already exists. And though it's not perfect, it's, Trump can't compete with it. And then also the conservative social space is crowded, not going well. And they reference how Parler was an epic fail. But the third one, this is my favorite, you guys. This one is great. Donald Trump isn't president anymore. That's why it will fail. And then they say, but since being banned from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, his ability to steer coverage has been significantly lessened. The idea, the very fact that CNN would even write this article is them trying to get clicks off of his name. We know that their news coverage has failed, as is most of the media. Their news coverage and their ratings has declined since he left office. So, if anything, they stand to benefit from him launching a social media platform. And not to mention, they say that he doesn't generate headlines anymore. Don't they talk about him every single night? Aren't they trying, like, they're talking about how that attorney general or prosecutor in New York is trying to investigate his golf course now? What did they talk about? What's the breaking news topic every day on CNN, specifically them? It is the January 6th committee. January 6th. Remember, guys, January 6th. I told you they're going to have an anniversary. They can't wait until January 6th of 2022. So they can treat it like the anniversary of 9/11 or Pearl Harbor or some other atrocity that our nation faced. And it's just hilarious that they're going to sit there and say Trump's Google search interest is lower than at any point in his presidency. It's basically back to 2015 before he announced he was going to run. To be clear, some people will consume whatever Trump does, but that group isn't large enough to launch a successful social media network, not even close. So they're hoping that it fails, but I think they know that it's not. I think they're actually really afraid of Trump, which is why they're still launching all these investigations, which is why they're trying to target all of his supporters, put us on lists, trying to persecute people that will vote for him. That's why you had that article last week. Will Kamala Harris have to stop the steal in 2024? So they're even referencing the same slogan, stop the steal. Kamala Harris may have to do it. Not to mention Biden's poll numbers, which I'll get to later on in this stream. They're more afraid of Trump now than at any point because they know he's coming back. They know he's still holding rallies. And this social media platform, while they say it's doomed to fail, I mean, has a massive presence. And not to mention, people globally will probably join the social media platform. But, you know, it remains to be seen. I don't want to, get ahead of myself here because here's my take on this. All right, I just want to preface my comments with this. Here's how I operate. I am reluctant to embrace new technology or some new trend or anything that's new. I kind of take a wait and see approach. So while people have rushed to sign up already for Truth Social, I'm not doing it yet. I'm just waiting. And part of the reason for that is there's a rumor flying around, and I'm going to bring this email on the screen because one of you actually emailed this to me last night. Somebody's saying that Truth Social already existed, and it's a Canadian company, and it was launched in 2011 or something like that. So I have not even begun to do the research. I got one of my buddies like looking into it. He's really good at like figuring stuff out like this. But supposedly, like people are saying that this is a potential honeypot trap, and Trump is being taken advantage of, or some people saying he's in on it. I don't buy that he's in on it. If this ends up being a honeypot trap or just a way to pull data and spy, and this is why I'm suspicious of everything. And I'm not trying to dump cold water on Trump launching a new social media platform. I'm just saying my personal strategy is I just don't embrace it early on. I wait and see. I wait and see what happens. I mean, you can't even it's not even going to be public until early 2022. But somebody emailed this to me. So I don't know if anyone's heard anything about this, that it's not real or that it has already been launched in 2011 by some Canadian company. And this is from some website that you can go and type in any domain and see who registered it, when they registered it, all the like nerdy web coding stuff. But yeah, truthsocial.com. And it says Two Cows Domains. That's who registered it in 2011. So yeah, don't know about it, guys, but I know that you can go to the website whois.com, and that's how you can find if a website is legit, how long it's been there, et cetera, et cetera. So again, wait and see. We'll see what happens. But, the Trump derangement syndrome is going to prevail either way. There's going to be all kind of people hating on it, afraid of it already. I replied to a tweet this morning where somebody says, Apple, you need to remove Trump's social from your app store immediately. Do it. And then they put Tim Cook in there. So they're already like panicked and hating and just further proving why we need more social media. You need more speech, not less of it. So I just figured I would lead with that because that's good news. I think, Trump having a new social media platform. So we'll see where it goes. Now, let's get to the not so good news. The Philadelphia rape that took place on a train where apparently the people who were witnessing it failed to intervene, but they pulled out their cell phones and recorded it as the rape went on for, I heard, 6 minutes, 30 minutes. Awful, horrible. But what makes it even worse is the man who was accused of raping a woman on this Philadelphia train is an illegal alien with a sex abuse and drug rap sheet. Good Lord. So this, I can't even pronounce his name, Fiston Nagoy, Goy, whatever. He entered the U.S. as a student visa in 2012, but remained after the visa was terminated in 2015 and was prosecuted from deportation or protected from deportation by the immigration system despite multiple convictions. He had a conviction as recently as May. Court records show that he had multiple arrests dating back to 2015 and 2 misdemeanor convictions, one for controlled substances and one for sexual abuse. And yet there he was on that subway train raping someone. Wasn't even supposed to be in the country. Got here semi-legally if you're here on a visa, overstayed his visa, which so many people do, and ended up being not even a productive member of society, but quite the opposite. And then got slaps on the wrist. How do you let a sexual abuser back on the streets when they're not even supposed to be here on top of that? So this is so disturbing. And it's par for the course. It's just part of a trend that's happening in this country, primarily in these concentrated urban areas like Chicago, where you're starting to see organized crime on the rise. Chicago is blighted by shoplifting. They're looting all over the city, Magnificent Mile. They're going to these high-end stores. Crime is on the rise in these cities. Crime is on the rise in this country. Or the smash and grab. Smash and grab thieves. Look at this. Organized crime right here in San Francisco, just going car to car to car. Because the soft on crime approach, the rhetoric towards police, the demoralization towards police, the push to take guns away from citizens so they can't protect themselves, complete decriminalization of shoplifting. So criminals know that they have the upper hand. They know that even if they do get caught, they're going to get a slap on the wrist. They'll get released. You get these Soros-funded prosecutors that are saying, we're not even going to prosecute that. It's less than $1,000. They're just granting a license to people who want to break the law, siding with criminals. And it's happening in so many different cities. And what's so funny about it, here's what's so funny. Fact check team. Is crime on the rise in the United States? Imagine getting on, imagine just browsing the internet. You're searching for crime statistics, which is how I came across this article. And I come across a fact check. Is crime on the rise in the United States? So you need a fact check to validate what you can see with your own 2 eyes. Like, the laundromat and grocery store in my neighborhood were burned to the ground last year in the name of justice for George Floyd. But let me see if this article will confirm my reality or confirm what I can already see. Let me see if the fact check is true or not. So they're writing these articles because they know people could see crime is on the rise, but we have to try to control that narrative a little bit. So let's see what kind of spin we can put on it. And they start off right off the bat by saying a slim majority of Americans, just 51%, expressed a great deal of confidence in the police. Just a slim majority, but a majority nonetheless. So they're already telling you defund the police is not popular. And yet they're constantly pushing for defund the police. Minneapolis, a city I know all too well. This is another example of high crime, high homicide rate, larger spike since last year, of course. Over the past 10 years, Minneapolis has only reported more than 40 homicides twice, 2015 and 2017. This past year, 2020, they shot up to 79 homicides in the year 2020. I left Minneapolis in 2017. If that's not divine guidance, I don't know what is. I live in a safe area now. I don't have to worry about it, but I lived in the thick of where all the rioting took place, where carjackings take place. There was another officer involved shooting just this summer. in a public area where it's frequented by a lot of people. So it's noticeable. People can see that it's happening. Yet you got an article fact checking to see, is crime really on the rise in the United States? So basically what they're doing in here is putting a spin on the rise of crime in these concentrated areas. So they reference Minneapolis, they reference Baltimore, Philadelphia. We all know what those cities have in common, right? I'll get to that in a second. They talk about how there is a huge increase in crime there, but overall in the United States, there's only like 6.5 murders per 100,000. Well, of course, if you include concentrations of the population where crime isn't high, that will easily dilute the areas where crime is high. So they can say, technically, crime isn't really up in the United States. It's just in these cities. Well, yeah. What do those cities have in common? Democrat-controlled cities that have pushed to defund the police or actively defund the police. And police are taking a soft approach. They're not pulling people over as much. They're not confronting would-be criminals or people that are suspicious. So therefore, they're not able to get rid of the illegal guns. They're not able to curb the human trafficking, all the other things that law enforcement does in cities. They're not able to do that. And then you got these prosecutors that are like, yeah, we're not even going to prosecute that crime. And then if you're policing a certain area, we're going to, if it goes south, you're going to be a racist cop and you'll get that Derek Chauvin treatment. See how they made an example out of him? They threw him under the jail to make a statement like, hey, we're not going to play this. You are going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law if you target these people of color. That's why you see cops are more bullish to pull people over now. They're a little bit more standoff-ish now. At least that's what they're admitting in Minneapolis. And then they also say in this article, the uptick in national crime is being blamed on a lot of different factors, but even experts admit we don't have enough information to draw conclusions. So there's just not enough information, guys. You couldn't tell from all of the carnage in the cities. You can't tell from criminals getting out of jail that aren't even supposed to be here. On top of that, that's a whole nother ball of wax there. The open borders, sanctuary cities, soft on crime, and then reoffending. You can't tell. There's just not enough data to say that crime is truly up, you guys. And so, yeah, it just wraps with saying USA Today poll from earlier this year found that only 18% of respondents supported the movement to defund police, while 58% opposed it. I'm willing to bet that number is much higher. A recent Gallup poll shows a confidence rate of 51% in police. That's up 3 points from last year. And yet you got the most radical members of Congress we've ever seen: Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, what's the other one's name? Cori Bush, AOC. They're all moving to defund the police while they're spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars each year on police. Now, they're the Justice Democrats, most radical members of Congress we've ever seen. Soros-backed money has people in Congress, elected officials, pushing to defund the police. So they're the ones that are pushing this movement. They're the ones with all the rhetoric. They're the ones inflaming tensions in the city. And then you got polls. This one is actually a little bit more honest, although I think the number, like I said, is got to be much higher than 58% of the population that supports policing in their neighborhoods. But it's pretty accurate to say, like, hey, defund the police isn't even popular amongst the people. So why the hell are these politicians pushing it? Well, I just explained why. It's all a part of that great big plan to bring down this country, destabilize it, and they've been successful. So anybody with good sense would be getting the hell out of these cities. They're trying to convince you crime is not really on the rise nationally. Explain why Portland has like an 800% increase in homicides. Cities like Portland, which weren't really on the map even 5 years ago as far as crime goes, just the lawlessness. Remember Chaz last year, Summer of Love? Like, use the eye test. You don't even need the statistics that I just read to know that crime is on the rise in the city. So I say all that to say this rapist now, what will come of this? Who knows? You'd have to actually follow the story to see if justice is truly served in this case. You don't know. He may end up with a lighter jail sentence. He may not be deported at all. Who knows what's going to happen? But I'm telling you, get out of these cities. And I know most of you probably don't live in these cities. I mean, at the very least, you're in the suburbs or just outside. But how could anybody live in these cities? Like I said, me in the heart of Minneapolis now is not safe to be in anymore. Southside Minneapolis is almost indistinguishable from North Minneapolis. Wild times. Moving on to the, I have to do this every day, guys. I can't help it. That's one of the dominating stories. It's just constantly in the news cycle. The cult of COVID and these pro-vaxxers, they're so obsessed with it. So you got Neil Cavuto from Fox News saying, because he tested positive, fully vaccinated, tested positive, released a statement, had I not been vaccinated, and with all my medical issues, this would be a far more dire situation. It's not because I did and I'm surviving, it's because I did. Yes. So he is saying you should still get vaccinated. You should still get it. It would be so much worse if I weren't vaccinated. Try telling that to the family of Colin Powell. Or and many other stories of people fully vaccinated, hospitalized with severe symptoms. They're obsessed. They are obsessed with this. And now look at the new talking point. Unvaccinated people should expect to catch COVID every 16 months. So it's just a new way to try to fearmonger you into getting the shot. Now, this does nothing for me. This doesn't put any fear in my heart. You should expect to catch COVID every 16 months. It's been longer than 16 months since COVID has been with us, and I haven't caught it once. But you're telling me now I'm going to catch it every 16 months? And if you're saying I'm going to catch it every 16 months because I'm unvaccinated, what you're really saying is I can beat this thing. That's what I'm hearing. If you're saying I'll live to catch it again, then that means I'm probably good. But still, this fear mongering, this is lowbrow stuff. This is low level. This is nothing. It's just a new talking point, a new spin to try to put fear in the unvaccinated. Some might call them purebloods, but anyway, the unvaccinated. So they go through a cycle of bribery, trying to butter you up, try to convince you. Then they try to fearmonger you. And then when that doesn't work, then they just get angry and they lash out at you. So it probably goes like this. It probably goes fear, 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 fear. Then incentives. Then when you don't take those incentives, when you reject them, then they get mad, then they lash out, then they shame you. And of course, you've got the discrimination, the constant discrimination and segregation going on in places like New York, where Bill de Blasio, the little medical dictatorship he's running up there, he has now announced a vaccine mandate for all city workers and eliminates the testing option. Who didn't see that one coming? I mean, when they first rolled this out and said, you have to be fully vaccinated or take tests weekly. So when they saw, because that was inevitable, you gave people a way out. When they saw more people were opting to just take a test every week, they're like, well, we got to eliminate that. So what? Yeah, I mean, if you're going to eliminate the testing option, which is actually more important to know if somebody has the virus than to know if they've been vaccinated, if you really care about the health and you care about slowing the spread, why wouldn't you make everybody get tested on a weekly basis? And I'm not for this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not for this. I'm just saying, why wouldn't you have the testing in place instead of removing it to make sure everybody gets vaccinated? because then you don't know who's got it. And this is going to create more of the unity that we're seeing in places like New York, some of the protests. And matter of fact, if any of you live in the New York City area, I need you to email me if you know of any upcoming protests or events, gatherings going on in the New York City area, because I'm planning to travel up there. I want to go up there to cover some of what's happening because I think it's really powerful. There needs to be way more coverage than we're seeing right now. Right now, all we're pretty much seeing are just cell phone videos, a little bit of coverage, but no news outlets covering it. I don't see Fox News talking about it. I don't hear Daily Wire or any of the mainstream conservatives talking about it. Like, why aren't they sending cameras out there? So I want to know when the next protest is. Put me in contact with whoever is organizing it. I've got a couple people that I'm working with up there, people I know that are trying to get more information. This is something that needs to be covered because it's not just city workers, it's police officers, it's pizza shop owners, it's BLM, believe it or not, people that are just against it. Put your differences aside with all of their other things. That's the only thing I could side with them on, is rejecting mandates. The only thing I am comfortable repeating on a regular basis is I am not anti-vaccine. I am anti-mandate. I oppose mandates. It should be your choice, and that should be non-negotiable. You get to decide, not French fry eating Bill de Blasio. Not some dude that's just a mayor of a city. He doesn't get to decide your fate. These COVID people, they're obsessed. They're obsessed, and it's not about health. It's not. People can cross the border right now illegally, not have to show any papers, no test, no mask, no vaccine. But if you drive here from Canada with your passport, or if you try to come up legally from Mexico with your card and everything else, they're going to ask you for all of your papers. If you fly here from any country, you have to show all of your papers. You got to have all your ducks in a row. But if you cross the border illegally, nope, you're good to go. We're going to eliminate testing, but everybody needs to get the jab. You can't make it make sense. It's not about your health. Never has been. They're just obsessed with jabbing you. They're obsessed with doing the bidding of their pharmaceutical funding overlords. And they're not just obsessed with adults, they're obsessed with children. Get a load of this out of my home state, Colorado.
After nearly a year of vaccinating adults against COVID, researchers are focusing on children. The latest phase of clinical trials will include those as young as 6 months.
Children do get sick. There are more children getting sick from COVID than many other diseases that we protect them from right now.
Dr. Myron Levin, a professor of pediatric medicine who specializes in infectious disease and vaccinology, will be leading the trials at University of Colorado Anschutz. When vaccine testing in children, he says one thing takes priority.
The safety issues have been evaluated every step along the way.
One of the first steps is recruiting participants.
As a grandfather, would I give it to my grandchildren? And I can give the affirmative answer, meaning that I believe in what I'm telling you.
Dr. Levin says it's about weighing risk and benefit, but that already parents across Colorado seem eager to take part.
Enroll as many people as we can.
Eager to take part in putting your infant through an experiment, which we have no long-term studies on for adults. But let's go ahead and vaccinate a 6-month-old baby. And people are eager to do this. Why? Who knows? But that's where we are. They're so obsessed with this. I've never seen an obsession like this in my life. Jab, jab, jab. Everyone needs it. That's the only solution on earth. That's all that matters. Sad stuff. Putting your kids through this. And I can't even go into the details for obvious reasons about that, kids under the age of 11. But you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't say it, but this is so stupid. Moving along. This is a protest that took place yesterday outside of the Netflix headquarters against Dave Chappelle because Netflix dares leave up his comedy special. So there was basically a trans rally protest, and this is such a misleading title. A couple of people with signs supporting Dave Chappelle try to interrupt the rally in support of a team trans employee walkout outside of Netflix. So check this out. I think it's misleading because they're like trying to interrupt. He's just standing there with a sign.
Why is he breaking my sign? Why is he breaking my sign? Don't have free speech rights? Don't have free speech rights for all of you? Oh, look, there's such a fire. He's got a weapon! He's got a weapon! He's got a weapon! He's got a weapon! Oh, you want me to drop my weapon? Yes. Okay. Get in me. There's my weapon.
Look at that. That's not social distancing.
I'm just here to say that jokes are funny, people. Dave Chappelle is a funny guy. I love Dave. I don't know why all the violence. I don't know why all the hate. I just love Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. They took my stick! My stick! They took it! My side, I need my poster board in $2.99! It was my money!
That guy needs his own comedy special. That was great. But why are these people so mad? I watched the comedy special. He makes fun of everybody. That's a true comedian. A true comedian makes fun of everybody. But no, you're not allowed to make fun of trans people. How do you have zero sense of humor? Zero sense of humor. You want this comedy special removed because it's so hateful and bigoted. In your eyes, it's hateful and bigoted. You're untouchable. You can't make jokes about us. You know, life would be a lot easier if you could just laugh at those jokes, especially when he makes fun of everybody. The best comedians don't shy away from anybody. They make inappropriate jokes. That's what makes them funny. That's why comedy's dead and why Dave Chappelle is such an iconic figure now. When I watched that documentary last week, or not documentary, that comedy special, I felt like I was doing something forbidden. Like, oh, I better do this now because it's one of the last of its kind. Who knows how long it's going to be online? Thankfully, I have physical copies of the Chappelle show. They're trying to ruin comedy on a broad scale. It's already been ruined, essentially. They removed Diversity Day from The Office. That episode, Diversity Day, that's gone. But this whole movement to get Dave Chappelle's comedy special removed from Netflix is ridiculous. Y'all need to accept it. Take a joke. Take a joke. Quit being so soft. Quit being so sensitive. And recognize it. This isn't the way our country used to be. Everybody used to be able to laugh. He made fun of white people. I used to like Daniel Tosh because he made fun of black people. I like comedians that are not afraid to push the envelope. That's the point. So this thing is just really blown out of proportion. What do you want Netflix to do? Because they'll never stop. They'll never stop. So if the CEO or whoever's making the decisions at Netflix, if it's a board of executives or whoever's making the decisions over there, if you cave to this mob pressure, they're going to take a mile. They're going to go for the next thing. They'll go for the jugular. You have to stand your ground. You have to stand firm, which Netflix has done so far. But we'll see what happens. And I'm not standing up for Netflix. Don't get me wrong at all. They promoted cuties. That's child pornography. They promoted that. So screw them for that. But these trans protesters getting mad, and then they get really aggressive with this guy. Covered, they got their faces covered, but they get all up in his face. They take his sign, and his sign just said something like, "I love Dave." Nothing hateful at all. Just saying, "Hey, I like Dave Chappelle." They go so far to try to make their case. Dave Chappelle channeled white privilege to justify his transphobia. That's not a joke. That's a real claim that's being made. He channeled white privilege to justify his transphobia. I hope Dave Chappelle does another special. You got to have these kind of cultural icons, this kind of breakthrough, standing your ground. That's what we need more of. We need more comedians. Like I said, when I gave my initial thoughts on the Dave Chappelle comedy special, you need more Dave Chappelles. Moving along to Michigan. The Gretch that stole Christmas last year. Gretchen Whitmer, Wretched Whitmer, Adolf Whitmer, all those little nicknames for her. She vetoes 2 election bills attempting to make elections legit in her swing state of Michigan. I wonder why she's doing that. A statement from one of the sponsors of the bill says, "How do we provide a safe and secure election in our state if the governor can't even agree that we should be ensuring dead people aren't on our voting rolls?" I mean, it could all be so simple. It's all common sense, which isn't so common anymore. They know they can't win because their policies, their ideology is not popular. So they have to rig elections. They have to cheat. They have to manipulate. They rely on people remaining ignorant. They prey on ignorance. Prime example could be me because I voted Democrat. The first time I voted was Democrat. But the more that I learned about politics, the more that I learned about how politics works and how policies might affect me once I became a tax-paying adult in the workforce, meaning after college, right? Like that's when I was really in the workforce. The more I learned, the more conservative I became. The more I realized it never makes sense to vote Democrat. I will never support their policies. So they have to do things like this. They have to have these irregularities pop up, like dead people voting twice, no voter ID. They have to have all of that because, and of course, they need the media to do all the heavy lifting for them. They need propaganda. They need to prey on your fears. They need to appeal to emotion. They need celebrities to campaign for them. They need pop culture. They have to work extra hard to get their votes, to get their message out. They have to lie, of course, omit information. And so Gretchen Whitmer is just the latest governor to make sure that Democrats reign supreme in her state. California, Gavin Newsom made mail-in voting permanent. So I don't know what's going to happen in Michigan. It's sad because they have a state or a legislature controlled by the GOP. The majority of this country is controlled by the GOP, by Republicans. If you look at how many states have either or Republican governors and or is what I meant to say, Republican governors and or Republican controlled House and Senate, almost the majority of the states. So she should not even be able to get away with this. We'll see what happens. People trying to shore up elections in states like Michigan, time's kind of running out on that. So I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. But this despicable woman right here, who is obviously a part of that 2-tiered society. I don't call them hypocrites anymore. They're just trying to, usher in their hierarchical new wave of how we're going to do things in America. Rules for us, but not them. Ongoing fear so they can constantly justify keeping you locked down, wearing a mask. They need somehow to continue a perpetual state of fear so they can justify their power grab. Once they grabbed all that power, seized all that power in 2020, they don't want to release it. They don't want to get rid of their power. You think they want to keep this going as long as possible. And that includes making sure elections are nice and ambiguous, nice and real shady, and they can muddy the waters and find strategic ways to win, like how all those swing. Let me not even get into it. You guys know I get tired of talking about it. The way that the elections win in all the swing states just so happen to be almost opposite of all the rest of the country, with the exception of Florida, because we took care of our elections. Moving along. Biden's support is fading as concerns over the economy and COVID grow. I'm only talking about this because Biden, as we know, he is awful, awful, awful. But these polls, when they talk about like his approval rating, they say his approval rating is at an all-time low. That implies that his approval rating was at one point high, which I don't believe it ever was. It never was. They're just kind of saying, hey, even people who actually voted for Biden are regretting their decision. Biden buyer's remorse is a thing. It's real. People are hurting. They're struggling. They see the gas prices, the shortages of goods, the border crisis, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he is in rapid cognitive decline. He seems angry, confused. You know, what's crazy is people who have family members, they can see that Biden has like early onset dementia. They're like, I saw these signs with my uncle before he started to go. I mean, they need to give him some kind of cognitive test. Like, this should be a thing for all members of Congress. First of all, you should have term limits. But secondly, you shouldn't be able to just willy-nilly run the White House. And we don't even know if you're mentally capable. Can he drive a car on his own? Can he be anywhere on his own? So they're saying his support is fading. His support is fading. And it's probably because of, movements like Let's Go Brandon, this organic grassroots cultural wave of people who are unified. See, Biden actually did unify the country. He did, believe it or not. His mandates have helped unify the country. And just the way that he has handled the border crisis, Afghanistan, shutting down the Keystone Pipeline, and now intruding into your life, trying to hard sell you on his Build Back Better plan instead of focusing on how we're going to get goods into the country. His handlers will never allow him to actually do what he should be doing. We know this, but because the average normie out there, they're not really aware that there's globalists pulling this man's strings. They're not really aware that the slogan Build Back Better isn't even his. Say what you want about Trump, but Make America Great Again is unique to America. But Build Back Better is used in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom. They're all using the slogan Build Back Better, and all they're doing is destroying their economies. And his little mouthpiece, Jen Psaki, keeps putting a spin on it. You need to lower your expectations, you little peasant. Lower your expectations. Things are actually going well. There's no food on the store shelves because so many people want food. Going back to Bernie Sanders, praising bread lines. It's what they do. So his approval rating is actually low. This is, if they're going to report on his approval rating, then yeah, report it as is. Extremely low, as it was from the very beginning. So the little bit of support that he did have, because it was never high, it is lower and lower and lower. So that's good. And that's why you have Let's Go Brandon chants everywhere. Actually, this one's the original. You got the very blue state of Massachusetts chanting over these Sports Center or broadcasters here. Check it out.
Guys can come in like a chess and the queen or a rook on the chessboard, right? These people have routines. But I think Evaldi's the one guy he can get away with. I thought Evaldi kind of let his hair down a little bit. He threw two of the most unbelievable split fingers for strikeouts for out 1 and 2. When Las Diaz, by the way, missed 21 calls tonight, right? The average is 8 or 9 for an umpire. 21 is a great deal. When he missed that,
you know they can hear it. They can hear it. They probably were instructed ahead of time. Guys, don't acknowledge it. Don't turn around. Do nothing with your body language that suggests that you can hear what they're saying, because they're reeling after the "Let's Go Brandon" thing, which they can't stop that. They cannot. They created this monster, and now it's gone global. It's topping the charts. So now they just have to ignore it. They can't censor it. You cannot censor this. So the only thing you have to do is do pre-recorded where you can edit it out. But any live event with a crowd of people, you're going to see this kind of chant. And this is good in liberal Boston. This is after a Red Sox game. College football stadiums, which are supposed to be really liberal, those cities where these colleges are, Virginia Tech and University of Tennessee, they're very liberal areas, but yet you got tens of thousands of people all chanting the same thing. And why I think it's so important is that's a measurable, that's a metric. It's another metric, just like the videos of Joe Biden, anytime he does a press conference or an address, they have comments disabled, and you can see the ratio of downvotes to upvotes. That's a metric to measure just how unpopular he is, as he tries to sell you on his Build Back Better agenda. People don't like this. Just yesterday, when he went to his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, he loves to brag. I'm from Scranton, hardworking man with dignity. I treat people with dignity. Folks, look. He says we will literally take millions of automobiles off the road. So, of course, he's just outright, when Joe Biden tells the truth, he's telling the truth because he has these little Freudian slips. He says things. We have put together the most extensive and comprehensive voter fraud organization in our nation's history. Those words came out of his mouth, and that was before the election. So he's saying all this stuff that just increases. These kind of videos are going viral. People are seeing it, and they're like, yeah, this is just going to increase the F Joe Biden chance. Oh, I guess it's muted.
Millions of automobiles off the road. We will take literally millions of automobiles off the road. Off the road.
Yeah, we know. We can see that already. Gas prices are up really high. The cost to buy a used car is going up. We see what you're doing. Yeah. Raising taxes, inflation, gas prices through the roof, and probably going much higher. They're up to $3.17 where I live. I know where some of you live is much higher, but that's really high for Florida. When I moved here in 2017, gas prices were like $2.20. So it's up $1. And it was as low as like $1.89 when Trump was in office. So yeah, it's very likely that you will take millions of automobiles off the road. You're doing a damn good job of that, Joe Biden. Now, I want to wrap with one awesome legend, George Carlin. They just don't make him like this anymore. To me, he feels like less of a comedian and more of just a truth teller with a funny spin on what he says. So this is a perfect segue from, Joe Biden. He's going to take millions of automobiles off the road. That's because man wants to be God. And we think if we can just give more money and power to the government and people that want to save our planet, we can make the world a better place. We can actually save the earth. Here's George Carlin just dropping truth. Legend. They don't make them like that anymore, you guys. So anyway, I just had to play that. I could watch that on repeat. George Carlin, rest in peace. Legend. All right, so yeah, I recommend you watch anything truthful like that before they scrub it from the internet for, science denial. Went from global cooling to global warming to just climate change. First, we're going to die from acid rain and all this. Like, give me a break. That's why gas prices are going up. Green New Deal. Anyways, I'm going to be wrapping within like 5 minutes, actually, because my little man's going to be getting here soon, and I got to see about him. Salty Army is in the building. Appreciate y'all for being here. Thanks, Mike. Haven't seen that in a long time. Thoughts on Trump media and social media platform. Yeah, I addressed that right away at the beginning of the stream. I'm all for it. I think that it's great. I want to see how it rolls out. I'm not somebody that just jumps on a new wave, whether that's technology, with very few exceptions, right? If there's a new restaurant that opens, yeah, I'll go on their opening day or whatever. But when it comes to like new technology or new things, I just have a wait and see approach. That's just how I am. So I'm not eager to sign up. I'm going to wait and see. Like, what does it offer? What does it look like? What's the user experience? But yeah, I think it's good. I think the fact that CNN's writing articles about it saying, here's why it's going to fail, means that's probably why it's going to succeed. They're a little bit worried about it. I think they're extremely worried about it. They know Biden's not doing so high. I mean, it's y'all's fault. You picked the worst possible person to prop up and sell on the public. It's like Weekend at Bernie's. Look at him. He's so spry. Look at him riding a bike. Look how fit he is. You see that and then contrast it with Trump holding rallies constantly. The fact that this move on from this, we need our old GOP back, the old guard. George Bush coming out to campaign and fundraise for Liz Cheney means there is panic in the establishment. They are concerned. Why else would he come out to fundraise for these non-America first, these globalists, these warmongers? Why would he come out of the woodworks? Why are they so concerned? Why are they trying to focus everyone's attention on January 6th? Why are they so obsessed with it? So I think his social media platform, they're also calling for Apple to ban it. It's not even an app yet. It's great to see the Trump derangement syndrome just as strong as it was before. Social media. So I hope to see it. They make it sound like there's no room for it. It's so crowded. We already have Facebook and Twitter. I'm like, yeah, nobody wants to be on Facebook anymore. And once he is back in the White House, I'm willing to bet he may not get back on Twitter because he won't need to. There's going to be a bunch of people getting on Truth Social to follow his posts. Journalists, news outlets, they'll get on there because they're going to make money off of it. That's why. That's how I know. They've lost money since he left office. That's why they still talk about him. That's why they write articles about him, because they know people will click on him. I have already pre-ordered Truth Social. I don't know how you pre-order it. Yeah, tell me how it is. I'm going to wait and see. There's no rush to jump on. Mike, contact the Angry Prepper on YouTube for info on rally on October 25th in NYC against the new mandate. That's a little too soon. I don't know how to contact somebody on YouTube. Just go leave a comment or something. I'm talking about like a flyer, some kind of information about. I'm going to need more details, and I can't just go leave some comment unless it's a really small YouTuber and he might see my comment. Email me the information, please. MikeNificent813@gmail.com. I thought New York State was requiring any visitors to be vaccinated. I don't know how they can do that. I mean, how are they going to stop that if you drive across the bridge from New Jersey? Unless there's a checkpoint right there. I'll just identify as an illegal immigrant. That's how I'll overcome that. Somebody says, stay focused. Stay focused. Pay attention. Stock up on supplies. Yeah, you probably should do that. That's a very wise decision. You should be stocked up on stuff anyway. And you're only going to see more of this. You're only going to see more people. But I was at the store yesterday and I saw a guy with a shopping cart full of 2-liter sodas. I have no idea why. I mean, that's kind of whatever. But he's stockpiled. He's like, I don't want to run out. So people are, remember last year they put limits on how many rolls of toilet paper you could buy? Hand sanitizers are like limited 2 per person. Yeah, you're going to see that this winter. What are the Black Friday brawls going to look like this year? When you have already scarcity, I think it's going to be a sight to see or not see. Much love, all y'all. MAGA Nation. Mike, if you can get Mike Francesi in an interview, that would be awesome. I have no idea who that is. We are always stocked here in Florida. Build beans back better again. You grow your own food. Get you some heirloom seeds. And grow yourself a nice little garden, especially if you live in Florida. Mike, what do you think of them removing the 3G networks and forcing people to get 5G network phone with non-removable battery to force tracking on people? Well, I don't know if I think that that's why they're doing it. I mean, I used to work for Verizon back in the day. I think it's just 3G phones. Why would you still have a 3G phone? I mean, it's really slow and compare, especially as technology is advanced. You would want to, I don't know, I would like to think you'd want your phone to operate faster. And I remember last year when they said 5G towers, that's how people are getting the virus. That was fake news. That was embarrassing because you had a lot of conservatives promoting that idea, and there were cell phone towers being torched. Now, I do think it's pretty dangerous to have this much radiation around us. We don't know the long-term effects from all the Wi-Fi that's around us, all this radiation going through your body. It can't be good for you. With that said, I don't know that there's some grand conspiracy theory to track people because you're already easy to track just by you owning a cell phone. That's what I think. We're all connected to the grid, the internet grid. Everybody's connected. It's not hard for them to track you. Speaking of tracking, I guess they found the remains of Brian Laundrie. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but I had feeling like he would have to be dead because where can you go without them tracking you? Have you ever seen forensic files? They always get caught. You can get caught pretty easily now, especially with all of the technology we have. So it's not really a shocker that he was found dead because where was he going to go? You just can't get away with much. Nicholas Cruz got the death penalty. Yeah, I heard about that. He should have got the death penalty. His parents found him before the FBI. See, I didn't follow that story from the very beginning. I felt like it was a huge distraction, and I didn't understand why that story specifically garnered so much press. It's just some viral sensation. It just happens, I guess. I don't know. I say it just happens because this is not new. This isn't the first like viral sensation. It just felt like a distraction with everything else going on in the country. That's what it felt like to me anyway. Don't think his parents are dead. Don't think he's dead. His parents are distracting the FBI. See, I don't know. I feel like everybody's speculating about it, and I just feel like it's really not all that important. It really isn't in the grand scheme of things. They either caught him or they didn't. He's either dead or he's not. Which I think he probably is. But I understand people speculating, especially because we don't know. We have trust issues. We don't know if we can trust what we're being told, what's being covered up. Do you trust the FBI? I don't know. I don't. So I understand the desire to go down the rabbit hole and try to connect dots and come to your own conclusions. Sean says, I personally don't trust the FBI to give us truthful information. I mean, kind of, sort of. I mean, if you look at the FBI crime stats, that looks like a accurate reflection of reality. But I mean, they also cover things up. They don't report things. I mean, Nicholas Cruz was on an FBI watch list. They didn't do anything about it. So that's a prime example of how they fall short of what they're supposed to do. Halloween mask off party. I think I've got everything that I need to say. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. This is, dang, an hour. Sometimes when I don't look at the clock, the time just flies by. But I do appreciate everybody for tuning in today. If you have gotten unsubscribed, you need to go to my channel to make sure that you're still subscribed, because sometimes after my streams, I'll notice like a drop in subs, like instantly. It doesn't make any sense, because my channel, when I look at the analytics, it shows that it's like growing, but then subs will just drop. So you need to make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Do that, because YouTube is probably unsubscribing people. I know it's happened to other channels as well. But please, thank you all for tuning in today. Please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you share it. God bless you all for tuning in. I will catch you in the next stream. Not sure what time tomorrow, but I should be back tomorrow. God bless you. I'll see you guys later.